What is up, guys? Would love to say it's been a long time, but it really hasn't been. Got some stuff set up finally, so at least I have my screens back. But everyone that checked out the NHL stream earlier, hope you're doing well so far. It looks like things are going pretty well as far as what we talked about. But now we get to talk some NFL. Second stream of the day. Not quite sure exactly how this new setup's going to go, but yeah, we'll battle through it. Lot to talk about with this slate for sure. If you guys haven't checked out my video with Pat Mayo that just went out yesterday, be sure and check that out for a little extra content. Gave my thoughts on the entire slate. Not a whole lot has changed since we recorded yesterday, but looks like we have a pretty interesting game going on with New Orleans and Dallas, and then that Showdown Championship is also going down. So I've been kind of sweating that with a few buddies for sure. But yeah, hopefully things can turn around a little bit. It's kind of a weird game so far. I haven't had a chance to watch it. I was kind of setting everything up. But yeah, how's Thursday Night Football going so far? Yeah, Josh, that was on the PME show. It should be on podcast. I mean, he tweets it out a bunch, so just check Pat Mayo's Twitter. Yeah, no Saints score through the first half. That is nuts. Cool, thanks, Unc. Yeah, never really sure what this new situation is going to be like. I feel like I've had so many technical issues since I started doing this, but at least now that we have everything set up in the new place, things should be a little bit smoother from here on out. So yeah, guys, before we get into it, I'm going to let a few more people kind of trickle in here. Definitely just wanted to, if it's your first time here, say welcome. If you're back with us again, appreciate you guys being here. One thing that I do want to kind of say again is that if you're not involved in all three levels of the content and the community that we have going, you're definitely doing yourself a disservice. So obviously you're watching here on Twitch. All the content for the most part throughout the week is going to go up on YouTube. And then in between that, the people that have been kind of going back and forth, bouncing ideas off of each other in Discord, it's been awesome just kind of getting to know everyone in there. So if you're involved in one of those, two of those, make sure you're involved in all three legs of this community. It's been a lot of fun. So yeah, so the big thing that I always like to bring up that a lot of people don't know about is the Amazon Prime. So if you have Amazon Prime, you automatically get a Twitch Prime subscription. So make sure you're taking advantage of that. Don't even do it with me. That's fine. Do it with Hodge. Do it with Manny. Do it with Al Smizzle. These are the guys that we've had quite the lineup for Sunday morning. So it's been a lot of fun doing that as well. And yeah, so continue to kind of follow us on Sunday mornings. And instead of reading an article or something that came out on Wednesday, there's just so much stuff that happens as far as news and stuff like that. So come hang out with us, ask some questions on Sunday. And I think everyone that's kind of done that has enjoyed it so far. Last week we did a subscriber only contest, and I gave out a free subscription for everyone, or for the amount of people that finished ahead of me in this contest. So on Tuesday, we did the review. I do the $1,500 on the $1,500 entry on DraftKings every week, and then I review it on Tuesdays. So we actually gave out 31 free subs. So if you missed that, I'm not sure exactly what the contest is going to be this week, but hopefully in general I have a better performance. But anyone that came out on Tuesday, hopefully got a free sub. All right, guys. So let's go ahead and jump into the slate. It is an interesting one. If we just look at some of the games in general, let's just look at the main slate today. So some of the games that stand out, obviously everyone wants to talk about KC. And today I want to kind of go position by position, keep the format a little bit more kind of localized at least, just because kind of jumped around a little bit on these Thursday ones. It's really hard to get a feel for how long that halftime is going to last, but I'm just going to keep going through positions. If you guys want to hang out, if you guys want to go back to the game, that's totally cool. But yeah, per usual, ask some questions in the chat as we go through. I'll try and touch on those, and we'll get rolling. So let's get started at the top. I think one thing that definitely stands out about Patrick Mahomes is that price tag of $7,600. Let's move over to the data sheet that all subs have access to. So on Sunday mornings, I do update this as well, but all the subscribers, the Twitch subscribers that are in Discord, get access to this data sheet. So for every position, I've got a column for each of the data points that I think are super relevant based on different research I've done, different studies that other people have done that I've kind of piggybacked off of. So a few of these columns will be filled in. Been a busy week. So yeah, so if you want access to this while you're building teams, definitely make sure you get in the Discord. But yeah, so just looking at Patrick Mahomes, so he is 7,600. But the best thing about this entire matchup for me is always the same for the Oakland matchup. It's just at the line of scrimmage. Oakland just doesn't pressure very well, guys. So if there's one thing that really affects quarterback play, it's how they do under pressure. So I think that this spot for Patrick Mahomes is one that I think a lot of people are going to be totally cool going to Cam Newton at 6,600. Going to be totally cool even going further down to Jameis Winston at 6K. I definitely like both of those guys, but Patrick Mahomes, like, how many times do we have to fade this guy and get burned by him? So there is enough value to make an argument to get up to Mahomes. 7,600, it's quite the price tag compared to some of the other guys on this slate. They aren't at home, but Andy Reid teams have been so good out of the bye that I do think it's at least an interesting play. Sure, 15-point spread. It's really tough to justify that, especially with your quarterback at 7,600, but I do think that he'll come slightly under-owned relative to this massive team total. So I think he's super interesting, a guy that is tied for the league lead in yards per attempt, the most important efficiency metric that there is at the quarterback position. So definitely think that he's super interesting. Moving down from that, Cam Newton is one that definitely stands out against this Tampa Bay team. So Tampa Bay is definitely a team to target. The one thing that I will say about Cam, he's not at home, but it is a pretty tight spread, only 3.5 points. So those are kind of from a game environment perspective. I do like games that are going to be a little bit closer. The pace is always a little bit concerning for Carolina. Part of the reason I was a little bit short on them last week, but they've been pretty efficient. So trying to get better about that. So one thing about Cam that I'll say is he's been a lot worse while under pressure this year than when not under pressure. The good news is it's still basically a neutral matchup at the line of scrimmage against Tampa Bay, who doesn't pressure very much. So I wouldn't worry a whole lot about that. 5 Lickmo, why is Cousins at 5,500? Am I missing something? Yeah, let's look at Cousins. So Kirk Cousins, 5,500 against New England. They are on the road. Game sets up pretty well for plays. I mean, the Vikings always run a decent amount of plays because they pass so much. Passing leads to incomplete passes, which leads to more plays. Pretty simple, but above average matchup at the line of scrimmage. Game plays top 5 out of the 13 or so teams that we have to talk about. Yeah, so I think that it's totally fine. He's getting 40 pass attempts. He is at home, or sorry, he is on the road, but around 40 pass attempts. The team total is kind of low for me. So I think that that's kind of an interesting data point for Cousins, but pretty much neutral across the board for Cousins. So maybe he should be getting a little bit more love. One thing that I always love about this Minnesota team is that the targets share is extremely condensed, right? So we know exactly where the targets are going to go. Stephon Diggs has a pretty tough matchup that we'll talk about, but Adam Thielen, especially given his price, considerably cheaper than a guy like Tyreek Hill, definitely think he's squarely in play. So I think that Cousins is interesting. Let's move over to Jameis, because I do expect Jameis to be one of the most popular quarterbacks on the entire slate. So if we just look at this, I do have some concerns. But one thing that does make sense to me is that it's the biggest pass funnel situation on the entire slate. Carolina's actually been pretty good against the run, not so good against the pass. So this is the side of this game that I think I prefer as far as Cam versus Winston. Really like that the game sets up well for plays like we talked about. But this side of the game, like Tampa Bay is always trying to keep the pace up. The line of scrimmage matchup is really strong as well. So I like this game to shoot out. I don't think that that's a super contrarian take. Haven't listened to literally any content yet. Really expensive to stack Cousins with both his wide receivers. Yeah, so that's the tough part. I agree with you, Josh. The tough part about the Vikings stack in general is that it is expensive to get both of those guys, and it kind of limits what you can do at the running back position. But there's a decent amount of value if you wanted to go cheaper or cheap and mid-range at running back and then pay up for just one guy instead of two. Definitely think that roster construction can make sense. You're just not going to be able to get up to one of these more expensive tight ends, which is totally fine, which we'll talk about. But yeah, I think between these three guys, I think that Winston's my number one guy right now. I think that there's a chance that at 6K, that $600 can really go pretty far this week. So I think he's the guy for me. Lamar Jackson in that same range. So Lamar versus Winston is a decision that I think a lot of people are going to have to make. I prefer Winston. Lamar is in a pretty unique situation because, unsurprisingly, Baltimore has just been running the ball like crazy. So the 30th most pass-happy team in the league over the last 3 games. But the thing that's always so great about Baltimore is that they're always willing to kind of ramp up the pace a little bit. So a player that's been pretty good under pressure this year. Obviously, he's got massive upside with his legs. Projected him around 60 yards. I think that that's a pretty conservative projection. I do like that the team total is kind of in that sweet spot as far as value and ownership, and is a tight spread. On the road, there's a lot to be said about Lamar Jackson for sure. I just think that his ceiling is still a little bit limited compared to what some of these other guys, but I think his floor is super safe, especially at 5,900. Those are the kind of the guys that I'm on right now. Nolfan, my man, 10 tier 1 subs. Appreciate it, man. He's just always just coming in here and just loading me up with subs. Really appreciate it, bro. I don't have any volume on subs right now, which is interesting. Have to mess with that. Noel, how you doing in the showdown thing? I haven't had a chance to open that up yet. I assume it's not going well just because there's no points on the New Orleans side. Let me click that link you sent me. All right, hang on. Let's talk about Nolfan. I can't scroll that over actually. So Nolfan went with Michael Thomas, Drew Brees, Amari Cooper, Mark Ingram, Will Lutz, Benjamin Watson with Michael Thomas in the captain. So I haven't taken a look really at this slate in general as far as showdown is considered, but definitely think that Nolfan is one of the better showdown players out there for sure. But man, sometimes it just doesn't work out. We still got a lot to play for though. I mean, there's still a whole half, man. There hasn't been any points scored from New Orleans. So anyway, seems like kind of a weird game for the start at least. Appreciate the subs though, man. Thanks for coming in here and doing that. I always appreciate that. All right, so that's kind of where I'm at on quarterback. As far as game situation goes, I think we'll kind of touch on some of these other games as we go through, but we should probably move over to running back since I'm sure the game is probably getting close to starting again. So at the running back position, there is a lot to talk about at the top. Todd Gurley back on the slate. Thank God. Love when Todd Gurley's on the slate. So the big decision, I think, is if you should play Gurley, Saquon, or McCaffrey. All these guys at the top. Hopefully you get to 2 of them. The few rosters I've made, it's a little bit more difficult to get 2 of them. I definitely think that it's something that I'm going to prioritize. I think some mistakes that I've made over the past few weeks is falling in love with some of this really cheap running back kind of volume. But what I like to talk about, I mean, I talk about this a lot on the Tuesday show, is giving up one of those running back slots, even your flex spot. It not only limits your floor, it really limits your ceiling. So a lot of these weeks where we've had guys like Connor, McCaffrey, Saquon, Gurley, like really go off, like you need a piece of that. So I was thinking even like last week with the Odell play, I'm sure we have a couple guys like that this week. Like Odell goes off for 130 yards, 2 touchdowns. Still doesn't sniff the upside for some of these running backs that are so active in the passing game. So I think that it's really, even a week with the value we have at running back, I'm really going to try and force myself to try and prioritize some of these guys that I think are going to touch the ball a ton. Let's see. Yeah, so many running backs in play. I totally agree with you, man. So Hyde plus 2 studs seems to be the most viable. I agree. I think that there's a good amount of people that are going to play 2 of the cheap guys, or at least 1 cheap guy and 1 guy in the mid-range. So I don't know. It's Tuesday or it's Thursday. I don't know exactly where I'm going to land in lineup construction for sure. You can definitely make an argument for Kareem Hunt at 7,800, significantly cheaper than McCaffrey and Todd Gurley in a game with a massive total. They aren't at home, but they are pretty large favorites in this game, like we talked about. So I do have some concerns with Kareem Hunt. His involvement in the passing game is something that I am a little bit concerned with. I never seem to get Kareem Hunt right. So maybe I have some biases there that I need to work through. CMC, like, I honestly don't think it's very point chasey. Like, we've been targeting this Tampa Bay team the entire year against pass catching running back. So I definitely think that going back to him makes a ton of sense. There's a couple other plays that are super interesting to me at the low end and the mid range. But one guy I did want to talk about, and it makes me sick that I love him so much this week, Lamar Miller at 4,600. I'm not sure exactly how popular he's going to be. Like I said, I haven't really listened to any content yet during this move and whatnot. But Just from the perspective of Houston, fourth most run heavy team in the league over the past 3 weeks. It is a massive run funnel situation against Cleveland, who's been pretty good against the pass. Second most team plays, first most game plays. Like, it just sets up really nice for a guy that hopefully is going to touch the ball 17, 20 times at 4,600. Home favorite. I think he's a really good play. Yeah, I mean, I'm never excited because I think Alfred Blue, yeah, he's probably going to touch the ball 8 or 9 times. If he steals that touchdown, that's really going to suck. But Lamar Miller is not really a guy that I ever play. And a lot of things are kind of looking like they could set up really well. Like, this game for plays is amazing. Like, I always love these Cleveland games because there's always a ton of plays. Noel fan, don't say Lamar. Man, I hate it. I hate the fact that I'm on him. But as of right now, I think it does make a lot of sense. We'll see if I make it there. 4,600. He's the cheap guy that I'm on. So yeah, Carlos Hyde at 3,300. That one seems a little bit more thin to me, but similar mindset, honestly, at 3,300. A team that has been very run heavy, but that was with Fournette there. So when Fournette's gone, this team historically has gone more pass heavy, but without their offensive coordinator, so many changes and kind of I'm not really sure exactly what's going to happen in Jacksonville, and that kind of freaks me out a little bit. I do think there's going to be a good amount of plays. It is against Indy, who likes to play at a higher pace as well. Pretty low total for Jacksonville. I mean, they are at home, slight dog. Indy's been brutal against running backs in the passing game, 30th in the league against running backs in the passing game, and he's 3,300. Like, I get it. Yeldon versus Carlos Hyde, like, I would assume, I mean, we're projecting Carlos Hyde for quite a few more touches. It might be a hard one to get away from. It depends on kind of which direction you go in lineup construction. Definitely think he's fine. Not sure if I'll make it there myself. Let's see here. Hyde's floor seems scary. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I still think that there's a chance that Hyde at 3,300 is one of those ones that's really hard to get away from in lineup construction, though, especially on DraftKings. Aaron Jones. Yeah, let's talk about Aaron Jones. So really like him quite a bit. Not sure why he is not in my spreadsheet. That's weird. Here, I'll just go put him in quick. So Aaron Jones, so they are massive favorites. I really love the defense for sure. It's a situation where I do think that there's a chance that this ends up being one of the better plays on the slate as far as like point per dollar is concerned. Like, I think he's going to touch the ball a ton in this game based on game script. I really think that at his price of 6,700 in game environment, like Arizona, I'm always slightly concerned that they're going to be able to keep it competitive, but I do think that there's a chance that Aaron Jones ends up being kind of the main beneficiary in this game. So at 6,700, it's been kind of a dead range for me as far as salary. Like, I love Chubb as well at 7K again, just because of the plays in this game and how much more involved he's been. I think both of these guys are really solid. It's just, do you really want to pay 6,700 or 7K for Aaron Jones and Nick Chubb when you can get Saquon for 900 more? Like, that's kind of what I'm dealing with right now. 800 more for Kareem Hunt. I think that from a price perspective, those two guys are interesting at the very least. As far as game environment, pretty neutral for Green Bay as far as pace and the line of scrimmage. So that's one that I'm going to have to work through a little bit more as the week goes on. But I do think he's interesting. M. Glass, Lindsey. Yeah, so Lindsey's the guy. I actually really love the Lindsey play this week. It's definitely one that I've been kind of trying to work through a little bit. I don't know why he's not. I don't know why I'm missing some of these guys in my spreadsheet. That's really annoying. Let me throw him in there quick. So Lindsey, at least from a game environment perspective, he really stands out to me, and how he's being used. We know that he's going to be used in the passing game. And in general, the passing game situation for Cincinnati is always one that I want to attack. So 32nd in DVOA against the running backs in the passing game. Lindsey's at 5,400, guys. I think that's a big difference in price from Aaron Jones. I do have Denver projected for the most plays in the entire week. The game in general is the third highest paced game. If he touches the ball 20 times, guys, I think that he's a really solid option, especially given that they are slight favorites in this game. But I just think that there's a lot of pieces on this Denver offense that I kind of want to get a piece of, and that's kind of scary. But I think Lindsey has just been awesome since they have kind of schemed out Booker from this team. Definitely think he's squarely in play given that price for sure. I know Chicago tougher on the run, but Saquon's price looks enticing. Yeah, I talked about that on the Pat Mayo show. I think that we only get so many opportunities to get these guys like Saquon with elite volume and usage in the passing game at a decreased price, like 7,900. I mentioned this again on Wednesday that like I think there's a chance we look back even like a year or two from now, and all of these running backs that have usage like this in the passing game are 9,500, 10K. And we're not there yet. So I think this is a pretty big opportunity in lineup construction to really take advantage of this. And yeah, it's a brutal matchup at the line of scrimmage. Love Chicago defense, like probably the top raw point defense on the slate. But that can kind of play to Saquon's involvement in the passing game at times. Like Eli, if he gets in trouble, totally willing to throw the ball to Saquon. So I mean, I think he's really interesting at that price point for sure. No Doug Martin. Noel fan soon be naked. What happened in the game? Did I miss something? Oh, let's score. Nice. High could definitely go 11 for 40 and 0. He could. I mean, he's probably not going to kill you at 3,300 even with that score. But I'm with you. Terp fan 20. Aaron Jones. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people love Aaron Jones this week. Are you worried at all about his price, or am I being a little bit too price sensitive with him at 6,700? I think that, yeah, you can project him for a ton of touches in this game based on game script, and it is a pretty nice total for sure. But what's your take on why Aaron Jones? Why do you love him so much? Lindsey versus a horrible Bengals team. Yeah, dude, I'm all over the Lindsey play right now. I think he's awesome. All right, so since this game started, we still have a decent amount of people with us, so let's keep going through. Let's move over to the wide receiver position. Wide receiver is interesting this week as well. So as far as weighted opportunity rating, that's one of the metrics from Josh Hermsmeyer that mixes air yards and target share. It's one of the main things that I look at as far as trying to target volume at the wide receiver position. So DeAndre Hopkins actually leads that this week. I do have some issues with DeAndre Hopkins for a lot of the same reasons I like Lamar Miller. This team has gone extremely run heavy over the past few weeks. That said, I think the main thing that matters is still Hopkins splits without Fuller. I don't think that Demaryius Thomas is near the player, obviously, well past his prime, but definitely not a field stretcher. I think that having Fuller on this field in general just does so much for Hopkins, and that's a split that I still think people don't talk enough about. So at 8,200, not super interested in DeAndre Hopkins, to be honest. I think he's fine in tournaments, but probably not going to be a play for me. Odell, yeah, I mean, I think that Odell's fine. I could see Odell having a good game after he kind of burned some people last week. But again, 7,800, not really a play that I'm going to make. At the high end, the guy that I like the most is Adam Thielen. So Thielen at 8K, I think that a lot of people might not make it there in lineup construction, but I think he is the guy on Minnesota that I do want to prioritize. Pretty decent for plays at the line of scrimmage. It's fine. A guy that has been super involved this year, and I think a lot of people, and we haven't had Minnesota on the main slate in what feels like forever. So I think that he's totally one of the guys that you can prioritize getting all the way up to. At the high end, I think that he's probably my guy. But the mid-range is really nice too. So guys like Emmanuel Sanders, Corey Davis, Kenny Golladay, with Marvin Jones out now, I think that Golladay is, at least from a target perspective, it's a really interesting spot. I'm always kind of concerned with what Detroit does to try and slow the game down. It is a massive run funnel situation as well. So I mean, I definitely think that there's a chance that Kenny Golladay at that price just really does well. I mean, I think that he's still very much in play. Corey Davis at 5,500, always the guy that's popping in the target share metrics. Pretty bad game environment against the Jets. But yeah, I've been burned by not playing Corey Davis based on volume before, so it's definitely a play that I'm going to kind of work through. You think DJ Moore again this week is a good matchup or chasing points? Honestly, I think DJ Moore is still a really awesome play. It's definitely worked for people to go back to him. The target share in general has been pretty nice. But yeah, I mean, this game environment's awesome against Tampa Bay. I don't think there's really any reason to really get too cute and go away from him. So his price, where is DJ Moore? Looks like I'm missing some people in this spreadsheet. That's super annoying. Let me see if I can find his price over on Labs. So DJ Moore's 5,600. I still think that he's still in the range where I think he makes sense, especially in game stacks of that game for sure. What about Godwin if Jackson misses? Yeah, I mean, I like Godwin a lot. His price is like 3,900, I believe. I think that he's super interesting. So he's a guy that doesn't really need a ton of routes to hit his ceiling, right? Because what he's being used at has been in the red zone a ton. So the routes that he has are really high equity routes. So it is a pass funnel situation. A lot of the same reasons I like Winston, I like paying down for Godwin at 3,900. There's some really interesting plays at the cheap end this week, and I think that Godwin is definitely in the main conversation down there as well. Yeah, I mean, I like him a ton. Humphreys greater than Godwin. Yeah, I mean, so they're two different plays, right? So Humphreys is going to be more of like the low ADOT PPR play, who I think is totally fine as well. Godwin, again, definitely has more touchdown equity for sure, but the yardage probably isn't going to be there either. There's a ton of guys at the really low ends, like as far as guys that maybe don't have a really high ceiling, but their price is super interesting. A guy like Bruce Ellington for Detroit. I've heard some Marcel Aitman talk, 3,500. These guys are super cheap. So, again, like would love to try and not go all the way down to that range, but paying up for these elite wide receivers that or these elite running backs, you definitely have to make some sacrifices somewhere. I think there's a better place to make that sacrifice when we get to the tight end position. But yeah, all these guys, it's interesting. Corey Davis time. Yeah, dude, it's really hard for me to look at this. So basically this is sorting by weighted opportunity rating, and he's like right there with all these guys that are seeing massive target share, and he's only 5,500. So yeah, maybe that's a close your eyes type of play, but a play that makes a lot of sense to me. Or Conley if Watkins misses. Yeah, I mean, I do have some concerns with this KC team if they get way ahead. I don't necessarily think they're going to like sit their starters or anything like that. But yeah, I think that there's a chance that maybe the game script gets away from it being a very pass-heavy affair for sure. Godwin for me, play FanDuel only. Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for touchdowns, I think that he's your guy in that range for sure. So those are the guys that, I mean, really stand out to me at the wide receiver position. There's a few other guys that we could probably talk about. But we should probably move on to tight end, get people back to this game, because that's pretty much it for me. I'm really trying to get all the way up to Thielen's in the mid-range. Do really like Kenny Golladay, Emmanuel Sanders, Corey Davis, and then going all the way down, super interested in Godwin, maybe going all the way down to someone like Ellington or Aitman for right now. But we'll talk about this more on the Sunday morning stream with CSU Ram. Always like to pick his brain. So if you haven't been around for one of those shows, definitely come check that out as well. Tight end. So Travis Kelce, like, there's really not a whole lot to say. This matchup against Oakland, 32nd and DVOA, all these things that really matter to me at the tight end position: routes run per game. He's leading that. Yards per route. He's in kind of the top range for that as well. It is a massive team total at tight end. What you really want to do is prioritize team total since it's so touchdown heavy. I mean, it's a really great spot at 7K. It's easy to talk about a guy that's going to be the highest raw points projection, right? I do think that I typically want to try and pay down a little bit. So for Kelce to really kill you, he's got to have 2 touchdowns. He's got to have the 100-yard bonus. If he doesn't, I think there's other ways to get upside, and it's at the running back position. Not to be a broken record, but I think that stuff matters a lot. Kittle at 5,900 is interesting. His usage was actually pretty nice last week, but the Nick Mullins-led offense is always a little bit concerning, especially at 5,900. But if everyone's going to jump off him, I think in tournaments he definitely makes some sense. Josh Reynolds' thoughts. Yeah, so Josh Reynolds is... So I heard someone mention, I can't remember exactly who it is, but the Josh Reynolds play is interesting because, like, at first I wasn't sure how they were going to use him because we didn't know how long we were going to have some of these guys out for LA, and they ended up using him a ton. And then, so the next week, I felt a lot more confident using him again. So they're definitely scheming him the ball. I think he's going to be a big part of this offense. So his price, $4,900. Yeah, I mean, he's right there with like that Corey Davis range. So that's interesting. I mean, it's a game where, again, I'm a little bit worried that Detroit's just kind of trying to take the air out of the ball. But I mean, we've seen so much efficiency from the Rams that, yeah, I think he's fine. We'll have to ask Pete about him for sure. Pete's going to say all the Broncos this week. Yeah, solid chance. Playing Lindsey and Lacoste on the same roster, yeah, I think it's fine. Getting value is never really so I've talked about this too, but my stacks, what I'm really trying to do this year is prioritize paying down at my stacks. So then when I hit that correlation, I can really hit on some of these other really expensive plays that I want to get in that are in really good spots. So I always think that paying down at your correlation is really sharp. Keenum plus Lindsey plus Manny plus Lacoste for hashtag Team Sex. Yeah. Yeah, it really doesn't get a whole lot better than that for Pete, especially if Emmanuel Sanders has a big game. Things go pretty well for him from what I've heard. So, all right, so we talked about Kelsey, talked about Kittle. Gronk is somewhat interesting just because I think people are going to play him. It's not really one that's for me probably. Eric Ebron, I would expect to be massively chalky at 4,200 without Doyle in this game against Jacksonville. Pretty neutral matchup across the board. Don't love the plays in this game in general, but I think it's fine. This Jacksonville game is one that I think has a really large range of outcomes based on all the different factors that are going on. So yeah, I mean, Ebron's role in the red zone is just incredible. The routes that he is running, at least they're very high equity routes. Hopefully he gets a bump in that usage. So yeah, I mean, he's going to be the chalky guy for a reason. All right, so let's talk about what one of my favorite plays on the entire slate is. Matt Lacoste for Denver. So again, at the tight end position, 2,500 just opens up so much in lineup construction. This is a higher total than you'll normally see from Denver. It's not a massive total by any means, but I do think that if we're just looking at things like yards per run, route run, he's one of those guys that's popping in that. So at least we know he's not going to be one of these guys that's just going to get these short little dump offs, catch it, fall down. But at 2,500, he's actually been pretty consistent. He's got a catch in like 6 straight games. That's a lot more than you can say for some of these other tight ends. So I think that at 2,500, you definitely can get a ton of savings with him. And to me, it makes a lot of sense in this game environment that I really like. So I think Lacoste is a play that I have on my main team at this moment just because it opens up a ton. We'll see if I have the stones to actually follow through with that one. Hey, Joe, will we be streaming NBA once NFL ends or just NHL? Yeah, so NBA, definitely not one of my specialties. It is a sport that I play a lot. So the only time I'm ever really doing content is when I feel like I can actually bring a lot of value to the table. So I think what the general plan is for NBA after NFL is to maybe bring some people on that I really respect. Justin Fan from Fantasy Labs, Drew Dinkmeyer. I'm really not sure what the list is going to be or who wants to kind of come on and work through things. Adam Levitan as well gets way more into NBA after NFL. Would love to kind of just like pick those guys' brain. I know it's a sport where projections are super important, where playing time really matters, and news for sure. So I love the NBA. I haven't done content for NBA in the past, but it's a sport that I would love to do more of. As far as NFL, once NFL is done, I'm really going to dive into NHL, a lot more prop bet type content, and then we have MLB right around the corner too. So there's a ton. Again, guys, I guess I probably didn't mention it before, but we're getting to that time of the month where so if you've been gifted a sub, if you attach your Twitch Prime to my channel, you definitely want to make sure you renew that subscription as well, because it doesn't auto renew. So make sure you take care of that for sure. But yeah, lots of really great stuff in the works for the subscribers even after NFL ends. So I hope most of you guys stay with us. Will you be doing MLB when the season starts up? Absolutely. Love MLB. It's got so many parallels to NHL, right? So I think that MLB is a really fun sport to play. Access to view your cart. No NBA streams would be, yeah, NBA streams would be awesome. I think that doing it with guests would be the way that I would definitely like to start out, because I really personally just want to learn a little bit more about kind of the ins and outs of it. It's one of the sports where I don't feel as comfortable giving advice about, for sure, because it's a sport where you really need to know a lot about the game. So I think hockey is actually pretty similar. So obviously I feel super confident in talking about the ins and outs of hockey as far as a real sport perspective. NBA is a little bit different. It's a sport that I wasn't really brought up around. So, all right, so let's touch on defense, get you guys out of here, back to the game. So yeah, for me, the play that really stands out, and again, I haven't really watched anything. I'm not even sure what the chalky defenses are. I would imagine Kansas City at 2,500 stands out to pretty much everyone. So it is a massive favorite at the line of scrimmage. It's fantastic. So Oakland can't pressure. On the other side of the ball, they can't protect. Kansas City is totally willing to pressure. There's going to be a ton of pass attempts from Derek Carr on the other side of this game because they're going to be behind. It sets up well, guys, for a 2,500 defense when you really want to try and prioritize paying down, paying up at other positions. Love Kansas City. Kansas City's probably going to be my defense unless I find an extra 300 to play Green Bay. Green Bay 2,800 against Josh Rosen. Takes a ton of sacks, throws a lot of interceptions. It is the best matchup at the line of scrimmage because Arizona can't protect. Green Bay likes to pressure. The plays aren't as great in this game as the KC game, but again, they are at home, which has kind of the tiebreaker for me. The pass attempts are a little bit lower, so I think that it's really close between Green Bay and Kansas City at the low end. Those are the ones that I'm really looking at. Yeah, Lacoste plus Lindsey can definitely be in the same lineup. It's the savings alone. I think it's totally fine. Ramsey. Yeah, let's look at Ramsey. I actually don't even know. I haven't looked a ton at them yet. Rams are at 2,600. That's interesting. So Stafford, pretty much middle of the pack as far as his turnovers over the past year. The plays in this game are really concerning. Like, guys, just like we want volume for other positions, we want volume at the other side of our defenses too. So I think the Rams are solid. I think I prefer KC and Green Bay. Price, everything considered, they're on the road as well. But at 2,600, it is interesting, the talent that they have. So I'm with you. You'll get them at lower ownership than those other ones for sure. Thoughts on FanDuel defense? Pricing is tough for defense there. Let me look at it. I don't have, let's see. I actually love that S. Boyton is on FanDuel because I talk a lot more about DraftKings, so that's where where most of my action's at. But it is interesting to look at the prices. So yeah, so Green Bay and Kansas City are a lot more expensive over there. Cleveland at 3,200, I could see making that play. I mean, it makes a decent amount of sense. Cincy against Jeff Driscoll. We don't have a huge sample there, but there should be a decent amount of plays in that game. They are favorites, they're actually underdogs. I was looking at the wrong column there. Cleveland against Deshaun Watson. Yeah, I mean, Watson takes a lot of sacks at least, but they haven't been passing a ton. Denver is interesting, but on FanDuel, 4,500. Yeah, the pricing is actually tough at defense on FanDuel. New England, yeah, I mean, if you're really trying to target pass attempts, maybe New England. They don't pressure at all, though. So that's kind of tough. You would really need some interceptions or pick six or something like that. But if you're targeting pass volume, I guess maybe New England at 3,600. It's tough, man. Nothing really stands out to me either. All right, guys, if you have any final questions, going to kind of wrap this up, let you guys at least get to the fourth quarter here for Thursday Night Football. We'll definitely be back on Sunday morning again with Peter Jennings. Those have been really fun streams. I think most of you guys have been hanging out for those. Again, mentioned it before, but kind of make sure you're prioritizing being in all three levels of the content, guys: Twitch, YouTube, and Discord. Would really appreciate it. Really helps me out, honestly, more than you guys know. The Discord's been a ton of fun. I think just going through late swaps has been super useful for people on Sundays. But yeah, I think that's pretty much going to be it. Make sure you're here on Sunday morning. I'll figure out what the subscriber contest is going to be. And yeah, if you're bored during the week and you're not really into the NHL thing, try it out for one night. Come grind NHL with us. It's a lot of fun. All right, guys, if there's nothing else, I'm going to let you guys go. I'll see you guys on Sunday morning. Good talk. See you out there.